But there's also a mom that is in Rhode Island, and she just wanted to know what the teachers were going to teach her daughter. Well, it has been interesting to watch. We've had her on before, and they said, well, we can give you all of that information, but I think it was $75,000 to be able to get all of that information. They had to charge her that just to tell her what they were going to teach. She didn't do it, and now the teachers union is now suing this mother for asking questions about CRT, the curriculum, at her daughter's school. We decided we would talk to her attorney, general counsel from the Goldwater Institute, John Riches. Hello, John.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
So I can't believe this story. It gets more and more bizarre and completely out of control. She asked for some documents. They first sent her documents, said she has to pay $9,000 for them, all almost entirely blacked out, like it's a Pentagon paper.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is truly one of those this can't be true types of cases. Yeah, as you said, at first, all she did was ask her superintendent, what are you going to teach my incoming kindergartner? And is it going to include things like critical race theory? Instead of just answering her questions, they channeled her into this formal legal process where they stonewalled her, told her they were going to charge her thousands of dollars. And then, as if that wasn't enough, the NEA, the National Education Association, a $300 million a year organization, filed a lawsuit against her simply for requesting these records. It's just a astonishing assault on open government, on parents' right to know what their kids are learning.
So this isn't, John, I don't know how you look at this, because this is much, much more than a lawsuit against a mom. This is game changing if this is allowed to stand, right?
I view it that way. I mean, look, just on the legal side, this is nonsensical. It turns the public records law on its head. These laws were meant to open government up. They're meant to protect the public. They're not meant to be used against the public. But yeah, I mean, this is a real brazen assault on parents everywhere. I mean, I think what it shows, Glenn, look at this group has so much money. Do they have nothing better to focus on, like maybe perhaps educating our students, than harassing and intimidating parents? It's a pure harassment technique. This union doesn't care about kids. They don't care about the parents. They care about driving a radical political agenda.
So they're saying that they had to sue her because of the sheer volume of requests and concerns about teacher privacy. So they're saying they're protecting the teacher's privacy.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's what's interesting about that. That's not the way the public records law works. I mean, typically what happens is a member of the public will submit a records request, and then the government entity, in this case the school district, will review the request. If there's anything in there that involves private information, and by the way, she didn't request any private information. She requested public information about public teaching duties. But if anything is in there that's included in an email string or something like that, the government entity redacts it, takes it out, and produces the records. Here you have a third party that's not even part of the public records process coming in and saying, no, I'm going to sue to stop you, records requester, from getting public information. If this is allowed to stand, it completely inverts the presumption of transparency in the way public records processes work.
So this is the kind of stuff you do for a living. Odds that this actually even makes it to court?
I do not see this getting very far in court. I mean, we are going to immediately move to get this
thrown out.
Offensive case thrown out.
And then what? How do we get access to our own children's information?
We're still pursuing. So we have sort of some parallel options as well. We're still pursuing the underlying records, and we're going to get answers to Nicole's questions. I mean, she has a right to know what her daughters would be taught, and we're going to find that out. So, we're going to do that through the public records law, through the open meetings law. We're going to hold this district accountable, and we're not going to stand for this union special interest.
How? I mean, this is so pervasive now. We have the CDC writing laws about, renters and landowners. This is, if that's allowed to stand, the Department of Education can write its own laws. Every administrative office can start to do that. And it doesn't seem to be getting better. How convinced are you that our courts are going to handle these things the way they should?
Well, we spend a lot of time thinking about this problem, Glenn, this problem of the administrative state of unelected bureaucrats creating the law, interpreting the law, enforcing the law. Look, I don't know about you, but when I was in high school civics, I learned that we got three branches of government. The legislature creates the law, the executive enforces it. But when you have things like the CDC creating rules, investigating the rules, enforcing alleged violations, you have one branch of government making all the decisions, and that's not the way separation of powers works. I think there's all sorts of legal opportunities out there to challenge this sort of overreach. Many of these cases are moving through the process. I think we have a very good U.S. Supreme Court that gets the problems of administrative law, and I think there's going to be a lot of positive developments in this area. The optimistic side of me believes that this is an area that's very ripe for reform.
We're talking to John Riches. He's general counsel for the Goldwater Institute that was started by Barry Goldwater, if I'm not mistaken, a trust that he started. And John, you say there's a lot of opportunity. But are there the attorneys out there that are looking for this fight? I mean, I've talked about it on the air before. We had one of the best First Amendment right attorneys. I've had him for 20 years. They just dropped us because it will cause too many problems with other clients that they have.
Yeah, I mean that is an unfortunate case where that comes up frequently in private practice. Look, if we want to look on the bright side of this, Glenn, there are an enormous amount of public interest groups. So private organizations like the Goldwater Institute, like the Institute for Justice, Pacific Legal Foundation, you name it, that have lawyers on staff that take cases specifically dedicated to limited government, protecting individual liberties. I think that is a very positive development. But look, we need more than that. We need private sector lawyers willing to take these cases on and not be afraid of the consequences to clients or whatever misperceived public appearance issues they think might exist.
This kind of stuff where you're being sued by the NEA, that scares regular parents, and it makes them go, I don't want to get involved in all of this. I just want to keep going. What advice do you have?
Well, I mean, that is exactly why the NEA did it, right? It's the process is the punishment. My advice, and I think it's difficult, but it's to be tough, to stand up, to ask questions. We all deserve a right. We all have a right to know what our parents are going to learn. We all have a right to know what our government is up to. Nicole Solas, our client, is an incredibly tough, dedicated person. She's not going to take no for an answer. She's going to keep the fight going, and it requires actively engaged citizens like that to get these sorts of answers and to hold our government accountable.
John, thank you very much. John Riches, General Counsel for the Goldwater Institute. Thank you so much. We'll talk again.